All right, in this video we're going to look at decomposition, which was another way of factoring these more difficult trinomials. Okay, so you might have learned it a slightly different way than I'm about to show you. There's lots of different ways that we can do decomposition. All right, so the process with this is step one is what we want to do is we want to multiply the first coefficient times the last number. So 8 times negative 15 is 120. Negative 120. Okay? All right, next, step 2 is we want to look for two numbers that multiply out to that number that we just arrived at, that product, negative 120, and add up to the middle coefficient. The middle coefficient is 2. Okay, so this is that number, and this number is the middle coefficient. Oops, middle coefficient. All right, so that's really the hard part of this process, is determining those two numbers. So 120 is 12 times 10. So if one of those is, if the 12 is positive and the 10 is negative, that's the ticket. Okay, so those are our two kind of like magic numbers that we need. Okay, step 3 is we split the middle term. Okay, so we're going to split the middle term into into two terms using those magic numbers. So instead of plus 2x, I'm going to write plus 12x minus 10x. Okay, minus 15. Okay, so those two terms, and if I were to add these together, positive 12, negative 10, it would simplify to positive 2. Okay, so it's the same thing. All right, so now that I've got into these four terms, and by the way, it doesn't matter if I would have put the negative 10 before the positive 12, it still all work out in the end. And then step 4 is factor by something called 2 and 2 grouping. 2 and 2 grouping is where we group the first two terms and group the second two terms, and we take out a common factor of each, and if things are going to work out for us nicely, then what's left after we take out each common factor is going to be the same. Okay, so here we can take out a 4x, and when I do that, I'd be left with a 2x plus 3. And in the second grouping of 2, I can take out a 5 and a negative, so minus 5. So I'm going to write it like that, and I'd be left with, when I divide each of those by negative 5, 2x plus 3. So I ended up with the same thing in brackets in each case. Make sure as well that there's always the sign of the common factor that you take out of the second set of the second grouping. Make sure that there's either a minus there or a plus there, depending on what you're taking out. And then the last thing that we do then is one of the factors is 2x plus 3, and the other factor is 4x minus 5. And that's 2 and 2 grouping. Okay, so let's take a look at that whole process again. I'm not going to write out the steps for it, but let's sort of just go through it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find two numbers that multiply out to 5 times 6, which is 30, first times the last, and adds up to negative 17. Okay, so 3 times 10 multiplies out to 30, but that's not going to add up to 17. 5 times 6 isn't going to work. 15 times 2 will work. Okay, so it's going to be negative 2 and negative 15. Okay, so both of them have to be negative because they also have to add up to negative 17. All right, so now that we know some magic numbers that work, we are going to go and split up 17, the negative 17x term, into minus 2x minus 15x. Okay, and then group those, and we can see that the only common factor of the first two terms is the variable x, which would be leaving us with 5x minus 2. And the second one, we can take out a 3, and notice here I want it to be a positive x term and then minus something. So I need to take out a negative 3 so that when I divide each of these by negative 3, I'm left with 5x, and 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. So I end up with the same thing. So one of my factors is 5x minus 2, and the other one's x minus 3. All right. For the third one, we definitely want to take out the common factor of 2 before we even get started, because that's going to make our numbers so much more manageable. So now we're really just focusing on this trinomial. Okay, so the two numbers we are looking for have to multiply out to 6 times negative 10. They have to multiply out to negative 60. That's our target number. And they have to add to the middle coefficient of 7. Okay, things that multiply out to 60. 6 times 10, I've got 2 times 30, 10 times 6. None of these combinations of numbers are adding up to 7 in any way, or subtracting either to 7. So let's keep looking here. It's 12 times, so it's 12 times 5. So 12 and 5 are the numbers that multiply out to 60. And as long as it's positive 12 and negative 5, it's going to multiply out to a negative number and add up to positive 7. Okay? So our two numbers are positive 12 and negative 5. So then I'm going to take 6x squared plus 7x minus 10, and I'm going to split it up into plus 12x minus 5x, like so. And then I'm going to 2 and 2 group. Here I'm going to take out 6x, leaving me with x squared plus 2. No, leaving me with x plus 2. And then here, both of them are negative in the second grouping, so I want to take out a negative 5, leaving me with an x plus 2, so it's the same as the other one. And then I know that my two factors are x plus 2 and 6x minus 5. So that is decomposition. There's a fraction way of doing it too that your teacher might have taught you. All kinds of different ways of doing that one as well.